guys, I'm Aaron from PhoneDog.com. Have you ever wanted to work on Wall Street or maybe ring the opening bell of the New York Stock Exchange or have a nice apartment in Midtown Manhattan? Well, I can't help you with any of that, but there's one device that may be able to help you out at least a little bit. It's the Samsung Continuum with Verizon Wireless. It's available now for $199.99 after a rebate, and it's a member of Samsung's Galaxy S lineup. Now, you may be thinking, why in the world did he bring up all those stock references? Well, there is a reason. Samsung, when they were talking about the Continuum, the ticker display at the bottom of the device, they said it was inspired by the financial industry. You know, the tickers that you see at the bottom of CNBC or CNN or any sort of program like that. It gives you a quick burst of information, and then it's gone and it moves on to the next thing. That was the inspiration behind the ticker on the Continuum. It's a cool feature, but what else does the device have? Is it a cool device? Is it a nice high-end device? Does it compete with the Droid line? So, we talked in depth about some of the changes to the Continuum, but we haven't really talked about some of the changes to TouchWiz. If you're used to vanilla Android or you just haven't played with TouchWiz since the feature phone days, there's some minor changes between, the stock Android phone app, for example, and the TouchWiz phone app, between the Contacts app on vanilla Android and between the Contacts app on TouchWiz. So let's take a look at the phone app, and you can see right away, it's very clean, but some differences. There are 4 tabs at the top: dialer, call log, contacts, and favorites. Very clean looking buttons, and then the bottom 3 on the left, voicemail, in the middle, calls, and on the right, messages. Now those change depending on which Galaxy S device you're working with. For example, the Epic 4G's buttons at the bottom there are different than the Continuums or the Vibrants or the Captivates, etc., etc. But you get the idea. 3 buttons on the bottom, and very clean looking. Call log, contacts where I can dial directly from the phone app, favorites where I can dial my frequent numbers, or I can pull it up by favorites. Contacts, no changes really between the Galaxy S devices and the Continuum, which is also obviously a Galaxy S device. But again, if you're coming from another Android version like Sense or some Moto Blur enabled devices or something of that nature, it is a little bit different. You can see contacts here, groups, we can check out history, and we can bring up activities. Now it's interesting, it's bringing up my Twitter feed on activities because I set it up so it would show up in the ticker. So one thing Samsung's done really well with the Galaxy S line, they have this deep integration with social networking, with things of that nature. So my Twitter feed pops up here, it pops up in the ticker. Deep integration within Android and within TouchWiz. Now the one frustration I had is, at least I was unable to find an easy way to add my Twitter account from somewhere like here or somewhere, an app on the phone or anything like that. I had to actually go into settings and manually add the account from there. So if you're a new user to Android or somebody that's just coming up maybe from a different smartphone platform or coming from a feature phone, it's kind of challenging to set up Twitter and set up Facebook and things like that. I'm not talking about the apps that are on the device, but actually getting it to where it syncs properly with activities here, for example, or on the ticker or things of that nature. But otherwise, very similar to the Galaxy S devices. Let's browse right over to the browser. Haha! Corny joke number 1. Browse over to the browser and see what it looks like on the 3.4 inch display on the Samsung Continuum. You can see, coming from, let's have a look at a device like Samsung Focus. Definitely a display difference, but again, if you're coming up from a feature phone or maybe the Pixie or something of that nature, it'll be a nice little upgrade for you. Now this is running Android 2.1, so there's no flash, but we can get an idea of what it looks like. Test the pinch to zoom, things like that. Let's see, PhoneDog's loading. And this is an EVDO Revision A device, so it should be loading pretty quickly. Twitter registration error. Figure that out in a minute. Let's watch it load. And you see portrait mode, landscape mode. And see, this is kind of cool because you have those times where the page is loading slowly and you're like, just play with the ticker. I'll read my little news brief. So you can see it's loaded now, or it's finishing loading. And let's take a look at the pinch to zoom. Now keep in mind, I am hesitant to compare this to an Android 2.2 device, but I'm still going to because they're all on the market at the same time, and this is marketed as a high-end device even though it's running Android 2.1. My point is, the pinch to zoom is much faster because of the lack of flash. So, very smooth, very easy to use, no problems whatsoever. Now when you have a lot of flash advertisements running in the background or something of that nature, it slows down. The pinch to zoom is a little bit slower. So, very dependent on if you're running Android 2.1 or 2.2, but that said, it's a very good experience, and I've been pleased with it since in the time I've been using it. Double tap, very responsive. Double tap in, double tap out. Pinch to zoom. It's very good. Now it's typical Android browser, so typical options here. New window, bookmarks, Windows, where I can click on that, open up a new one, and go to CNN. Right there. So you can see, brings it up pretty quickly. And then when I want to go back to Phone Dog, click on that, bring it back to Phone Dog. And again, multitasking, and it's still very fluid and very easy to use. Now let's take a look at the camera. It's a 5 megapixel camera with a flash, and in typical Samsung fashion, it's a very good camera on all the Galaxy S devices, Samsung's Focus, the Windows Phone 7 device, and the Continuum. I've been very pleased across the board with camera quality. It's been very good. And we'll put up the Continuum box. Usually I cheat and put another phone down here, but I'm just kind of feeling guilty about it today, so I'm going to use the box. You see camera button over here, so I'm a big fan of physical camera buttons because I find it's easier to autofocus and it's easier to hold the device steady when I have two hands on it. And I can get down here at the Verizon logo, for example, and autofocus from here versus physically doing it on the screen. So let's take a look at, we'll do that. Let's see here. Take a picture. And took the picture. Now, here's what it looks like on the camera screen. You can see you can swap to video, or you can take the picture. But let's have a look. I mean, that's pretty good, in my opinion, for a well-lit room and all. It's a pretty good picture. I'm pleased. I can easily see Samsung Continuum Galaxy S device. Then I can scroll over. This is a picture I took the other day of all the phones that I have on my desk right now, along with 2 Galaxy tabs. So needless to say, I have a lot of phones in my office, or actually that's just on my desk. I have more in the office, but picture quality's been very good. That was with no lighting whatsoever in the room, with the exception of the light from the window, and you can still make out most of those phones. So pretty impressed with the picture quality. The flash works well. It's worked well, particularly well in daytime situations and well-lit situations. In low-lit situations, it's still one of the best cameras I've used on any smartphone. It's very crisp. Colors look good. They're not washed out. Had no problems on that front. Let me double check real quick and make sure my GPS. Let's kick this stuff on, and let's do some testing. Let's bring it over here to Quadrant Standard. First of all, because I want to get an idea in comparison to something like the Droid X or the Droid 2, both of which are marketed as $199.99. Which one should you get? We'll take a look at the speed test. In the meantime, I've been very pleased with the reception of this device. I took it to a Verizon dead spot in Northeast Charlotte early last week. And was very pleased with the call quality. It was choppy, the audio went in and out, but the call never dropped. In the dead spot I was in, I made 2 test calls, and both were choppy, but no dropped calls. Speakerphone works well. I was in a loud gas station a couple of days ago while traveling and was able to use it while I was on the phone with a family member without issue. So that was fantastic as well. Battery life has been very good. I've made it, typical Android, on par with most Android stuff. I made it, a day with moderate use. I shouldn't say very good. That's not accurate. It's good. It's better than most Android devices. I'd place it behind the MyTouch 4G in terms of just based on my observations. But with moderate use, text messaging, email, calling, things of that nature, I was able to make it throughout the day before the device required a recharge. So while that's running, let's take a look back here, and you can see the battery. It's 1500 milliamps, so it's the same milliamp battery that's in the Galaxy S, the other Galaxy S devices like the Epic 4G, the Captivate, the Vibrant, and the Fascinate. So 1500 milliamps on that front. Otherwise, light use, you should be able to make it through a day and a half. Moderate use, I made it through a day. Heavy use, you'll probably run low by the evening. So depends on your usage pattern, but 1500 milliamps is definitely decent. Now, the Quadrant Standard score, it came in at 840, excuse me, a little bit slower than the Galaxy S line, the Droid X, the Evo, the Nexus 1. It came in pretty low in comparison to what's on the market. So I look at that as, this device was $100 or $130, I'd feel a little bit differently. But this is priced right at $200 with the Droid X, the Droid 2, the Fascinate, some of the other competitors. And it's running a little bit behind. So for a high-end device, or at least what's being billed as a high-end device, it's only at 840. So not the best score in the world on the Quadrant Standard front. Let's take a look at speed test. and bring that up. Sorry, I have a frog in my throat. Ribbit. Aha, two bad jokes in one video. Change server. We'll wait until that locates us in Charlotte, and we'll do a speed test. But network connectivity has been reasonably well as well. On that as well, I've had strong data signal. Had no problems with browsing the web. It's a little bit slow from time to time depending on where I'm at, but no cutouts or anything of that nature. Let's take a look at the test here and see what it gets. Okay, so here it is, 1044 kilobits per second, about 1 megabit per second. On the upload, 695 kilobits per second. Not the best in the world, particularly when you're comparing to WiMAX and HSPA Plus, which is what T-Mobile uses and bills as quote-unquote 4G. So, not in comparison to what's on the market right now, not the greatest in the world. That said, LTE is rolling out in December, according to Verizon's commercials. Should be out in 38 markets by the end of the year, or 39, I believe. And we'll be able to test that when that comes in. So it's really nice comparing apples to oranges with WiMAX versus, let's say, EVDO. But once that LTE gets in, we'll be sure to test it. Much more coverage to come on the Samsung Continuum on PhoneDog.com. Dogfights, written reviews, things of that nature. Be sure to check out the site, PhoneDog.com. Be sure to like us on Facebook, Facebook.com/PhoneDog. We're giving away up to 100 iPads and a trip to the Super Bowl as well. Who knows? Make sure to like us on Facebook. Enter the sweepstakes. And who knows, you could win an iPad or even a trip to the Super Bowl in 2011. Be sure to follow me on Twitter as well, PhoneDog_Aaron. Ask me any questions you have. Ask me how my hair is so awesome, why my jokes are so bad. I'm happy to answer any questions you have about devices or just in general. Thanks for watching. Keep it locked on PhoneDog.com for more coverage. Have a great day.